Tate Leoma Monaheng.
Sure.
Yeah. How are you?
No, I'm chilling. I'm chilling. Relaxed. I'm broke, but I'm alive.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Portuguese now. What's okay?
Sure. Happy da simpetinyani.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that question.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, Portuguese.
Yeah.
How you put out now? It's okay. I want to know Siboko how.
Oh.
Yeah. So Harika.
Okay.
What's okay?
I guess
Yeah. No.
It's for started blind. But okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. What's okay?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Well, ke Mokoena Monaheng.
No. Harika malo. What's okay?
Come on, dila.
Waja.
Bohobe.
Officer
Ka metsi a pula.
Tell her.
Ke telleleng ke le Mokoena wa Monaheng wa Khagane kgetha khothu.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I heard Prof this last time.
Yeah.
So basically, I've kind of discovered what most of us read about Mandoselim fell, and then that's why. But actually, the praise poems, they are really.
It's like the whole poem.
Not that long, but
True.
it's like the whole poem. But I feel like Islani commonly he made me aware of some of these toe terms the document body booking and stuff, but some because they are popular, and I would think how because but when I feel like they are more popular kapa back when I fela belong.
Well, like I think with my issue is that I try to delve, one of your team members, it's history. I try to delve into a lot of the scope of that particular history, so much so that I get lost within myself whenever I discover such things. For instance, when we talk about Bakwena, especially Bakwena, Monaheng, we have to understand the history of Lesotho. Because we're talking about someone that was called Kadi. Kadi, Olatloa, Moting in Tswanatsatsi. When we talk about Ntswanatsatsi, most people think about Ntswanatsatsi as this magical place that's somewhere.
Right, for sure.
Ntswanatsatsi is in South Africa, bro.
Oh.
It's in Tafelkop. Mzansi, Frestrata. I'm Frostana. So when Kadi came here, the story goes, because you have to go back into, again, I'll use this word because it's nagging at me, the history of the Basotho. You have to read up on Ellenberger. And when you do that, then you have to understand that when Kadi came, there's a story that says that Olafumana Bahwa, because basically Basotho, or the Bantu people, migrated from parts of Tanzania all the way up until they came here. And then Kadi, when he came here, he found Morwa, I'm sorry if that's derogatory, or a Khoi, you understand? A Khoi chief, right? And the Khoi chief basically said to Kadi, Mpe matakwana hao kitla ufa Monaheng una waka. And that's basically where the term or the name Monaheng was bestowed on Kadi, right? And from Kadi, we came to have Mohlomi, and from Mohlomi, not from Mohlomi, but from that lineage, we actually came to have Pete, and then Pete, Mokhachane, and then Mokhachane, Moshoeshoe. But up until Moshoeshoe, there wasn't any formulation of Basotho as a people. There were clans. So my issue is that I delve a lot into this and then I get confused and then I forget parts of this. So when I use Monaheng, one guy, bro, I'm going to buy a blind.
There's a lot of information.
I want to for real.
Yeah. So I kind of want to know, basically doing what you do. I've seen a lot of your newsletter. I think that's when I got to know about you a lot more. Basically the newsletter. I think LinkedIn fell like a
it's on LinkedIn. It's on LinkedIn.
So I was kind of reading and you touch topics of that sort, or Mohlomiism, or Moshoeshoeism, and basically breaking down their qualities and the critiquing them as well. So I sort of want to know, doing what you do, what kind of inspired you? Like, where does that even come from? Interest there, basically.
Well, we have to go back into my history. First and foremost, I'm a community builder. And that was able to grant me certain opportunities. I started an organization that was called Chemnet Networks Lesotho about 6 years back, and from it, I was just helping kids in my neighborhood. I come from a very poor neighborhood, bro. And these kids don't have nothing. So my thing was just to build up capacities of the youth, because some of them have left school just so that they could find a means of sustaining their own livelihoods and feed their families. And from that, I was able to get into the international development scene by acquiring a Fulbright scholarship. I believe before that, I was also an Africanist, right? Because the podcast that I also had was speaking to Africans and African movers and shakers all across the continent and even in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So someone like a Kabaka Pyramid of dancehall culture, we were speaking to him about issues that pertain to Afrocentricity, right? So when I went into that scope and I actually had access to the Fulbright scholarship, and I went to DC, Washington, where I did my master's in international development. That's when I truly understood the scale in which Africans are oppressed, right? It's not overly simplistic. It's when you see that a country like Lesotho holds 30% of its own mineral resources by way of diamonds. It's when you understand that for instance, we don't even have access to the waters that are in our own land, right? Because most of it goes to SA. You understand?
Yeah.
If I'm going to speak about, it's called partnerships, but broadly speaking, there are tons of things that happen underneath the scene. We export 90% of our textiles to America. That might be to our benefit, but that speaks to a broader scope of, do we understand what we have as Africans? Do we understand the resources that we have? Are we using them to capacitate ourselves in order for us to move forward? Or are we just in another form of colonization? So that's basically what I do. Yeah.
That's interesting. And I feel like most of these topics that you can even speak about for some people, it can be something that is really hard to like speak on, because sometimes you'll be like, this might piss a lot of people, especially social media, that now it's a huge community. You get to have critiques, the message that you're trying to tell, you're trying to spread out, somehow gets distorted along the way. And yeah, I just want to know, Horena, the boldness in you, it drives that. Like, I just want to know about it, Horena. Where does it even come from?
What do you do for a living? That's the first thing I always ask people. Because what you do for a living, especially with your generation, I'm finding that you guys actually delve into the passions that you guys are into. So what do you do?
I am a graphic designer, but I'm not just that, but I also do brand strategy. Yeah.
I'm guessing that's your passion, right?
That's not really my passion. My passion is into the arts, but I kind of sort of did that because it was something that is close to do. But it's now that I'm actually shifting to something that I'm passionate about, which is animation.
So if someone had to tell you right now, don't do animation, what would you say? Fuck them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So at some point in time, it's not about the fear, bro. Like the fear, it's there's a poem by someone called Bukowski, right? And Bukowski says, If it's not in you, don't do it. If then you have to overly think about it, then don't do it. If something can stop you from doing it, then don't do it, right? So that's my whole thing. I mean, there is a broad element of fear. There is that element of, should I be doing this? Should I be speaking on such information, right? Because you have to understand, historically speaking, for instance, when we talk about a country like Burkina Faso, Lumumba was assassinated for saying, you didn't grant us our freedom. We fought for our freedoms, right? So there's this long line of people that were actually assassinated, and I'm not that important, whereas I'm saying the CIA would go, okay, yeah, this is someone we can... I'm not that important, but there is that element of fear that goes into it. So it's like, hey, bro, just do what you're here to do, man. It's just that simple.
But does that sometimes worry you, Kapo? Do you sometimes have that thing you're like, should I speak on this, Kapo?
Yeah, like I explained when we were talking earlier that I've had social anxiety since I was probably like 11. We moved around a lot, my mother and I. And just leaving the house actually is something that's quite a challenge for me. But then again, you have to understand that once you get to a certain level of discomfort, then everything is just anything, bro. It's just like, I also come from a place where there's a lot, it's very contentious, right? Like you might find yourself in a squabble with someone else. But then once that happens so many times, then it's like, all right, it's another day, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you can choose what your action would be, what your reaction might be. The scariest thing is not being able to choose what your reaction would be, whether it's fight or flight, right? But once you go through the motion of that every single day, then it's just like, oh, okay, this is not worth my time, right? Then you have that sense of calm and you can move about your day.
I find for the most part, the fears that we have, they hold us back from being who we are, and they suppress us. Basically, it's our minds. I think a lot of things happens in here. They happen in here, so we get to be trapped in our minds. For some of the fears that I actually used to have, I realized, okay. Actually, I didn't even have to be afraid. It was just in my head. But once I step forward and start doing what I do, to some extent, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, with me, I think the biggest issue that we have as a society is thinking that fear is the problem. I think the problem is inaction. I think the problem is stagnation. I don't think fear, bro. That's so many fears, man.
Basically, it's a normal thing.
Hey, man, like... Mike Tyson was afraid every time he went into the ring, bro.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah, man. Like the issue is then how do I then use that as momentum, right? Have you watched like 300, like the movie 300?
I don't believe
you haven't watched the movie 300. That's insane. Everyone in your team has watched the movie 300.
I mean,
okay, let me explain it this way, right? The main character has the scene where they're sort of like in a cave and they're trapped and they have to kill this wolf, right? But then they have a sense of what most people call fear, but with them it's energy, right? So once you can convert that into thinking like, nah, this is energy, then you breathe, right? And then you take account for all your senses, sight, hearing, and then you're like, I got this shit. I got this shit. Because I can tell you this thing. Once you overcome that fear, you'll understand that it wasn't even something that was that big to be fussing over. Really. It wasn't that important. It was just another thing. Right? So you won't have a sense of regret. You will just have a sense of, okay, what's next? If it was that important, then you wouldn't think what's next, right? So, but it's energy. It's latent energy.
It's about basically channeling it into it. A direction that we want to take. So, provided what you do basically. So, what is it that you hope to achieve by basically the things that you talk about, the work that you do? What is the, not even the end game, but what you hope to achieve, the satisfaction that you say, this is this is where I'm headed, and this is what I want to do or what I want to achieve through my work.
I think my whole thing is, can people just be people, bro? Like, can people just relax, man? Like, I think we live in this society where everyone is just so anxious. Like, I have to prove to you who I am. I'm not going to greet the guy at the door because somehow I have this much in my bank account and I'm that much more important. Or my whole thing is creating ecosystems. It just so happens that I create ecosystems within the scope of Afrocentricity, right? And by that, I believe that we have to have a knowledge of self. I always use Ubuntu as a unifying factor or as a unifying philosophy into everything that I do, because Ubuntu is what's the word I'm looking for? It's continental in scope, right? Ubuntu basically says, I am because we are.
Yeah.
Right? There was another philosopher by the name of John Mbiti who actually extended it. He said, I am because we are. And because we are, therefore I know I am. You know, Rasta say the I and I. Bro, do you know the amount of peace you would have if you were to walk outside and see everyone as a part of you? All those anxieties wouldn't be, like, you wouldn't be trying to fight it. You wouldn't be trying to prove to everyone who you are. You just be relaxed, bro. You understand? Because everyone, to a certain element, actually is a reflection of you. Because if someone else has jealousy, doesn't mean that you don't have jealousy in your heart. If someone else has love, doesn't mean that you don't have love in your heart.
We all have
it's just like we pick and choose. Like, I'm not going to talk to the person that's being disrespectful to me. But again, I'm not going to see myself as better than them or whatever, dog. Like, let's just live, man. There's so many places to see, so much money to make, you know, so much enjoyment in life. So that's what I do. I just do it in a very unhealthy way of putting myself out there, you know. But that's all I'm trying to do. So I'm taking an African focus, because once you take the European focus would say it would be much more neoliberalist, that's the word I'm looking for. And it would be much more individualistic. We have to understand that in our history as African people, we've been so oppressed that we can't afford to have that I'm me, and therefore if I'm me, then everything else belongs to me. We have to open up spaces. I mean, we're in Kingsway Road right now, right? And I just said that if you were to count the number of Basotho businesses in Kingsway alone, you come up to a number like 5 or 6 or 7, right? If you count the number of foreign businesses that are owned by foreign nationals in our own country or multinationals in our country, bro, you'd come up to hundreds or maybe even dozens. You understand what I'm trying to say? So we have to open up our spaces and we have to talk to each other and we have to build capacities amongst each other. I guess that's just my view.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like we had that back then, but I don't know. Starting basically going through history.
I wish this was whiskey. I wish this was whiskey.
Oh yeah, that's not. That's water. But the thing is though, sometimes I feel like we had that back then. Bo we know bo Moshoeshoe. They had people are not only about themselves. It's like if you are appointed to be a leader, you are there to serve, not basically to make yourself rich couple, to be above everybody. It's like and I feel like now where we are headed, I just wanna get to the top, you know. We are climbing. We want to be at the top of the food chain so that we think that's what life is about. But I feel like Islam and what you're saying basically, making peace with other people, you become peace with yourself as well. Yeah, because on Ajana, if, for example, if I happen to not greet my neighbor or something. When I get out of the house, I have to maintain that toughness thing. But it's in the morning. I have to maintain that, and I rob my peace. But
Yeah, that's true.
if only nekele peace with them,
Yeah.
I would just be happy, seeing them basically. So
Yeah.
I don't know, Horena, where did that get lost? Where do you feel like it got lost along the way?
I think the biggest problem that Africanists, I'd hate to use a Dr. Umar as an example. I don't like him much. I hope he sees it somehow. Because they put a utopian view of what Africa was before colonization. But we've always had fights amongst each other, right? We've always been different. There's always been someone that was called like a witch or something, right? But the unifying factor of African philosophy is that philosophy of I am. So we try to maintain it, or we try to be closest to it. So when you talk about Basotho systems, then you talk about Matsema. You talk about our view on land, that no one owned land, actually. Land was just in the councilship, if that's a word, of the king. He even didn't own it. He just placed people in the lands that were necessary for everyone to actually be fulfilled, right? We had Mafisa system. With Mafisa, what happened was the king would borrow you a cow, right? And if that cow bared a calf, then you would own the calf, meaning that we enriched each other through that system. But what actually happened is that when you read with some authors like Dr. Sean Madie, you discover,
whatever it is.
you discover that what actually happened was there was an inclination of the colonial system to break down those systems that we had. So with the introduction of missionaries, I hope Christians don't find this to be something, but it's true. With missionaries and them coming here, they demonize systems like Matsema, right? Because it doesn't fit the status quo, right? Let me give you an example. Do you know what happened in order for Basotho men to actually go into the mines? A tax system was introduced. It was called cow tax. So if you viewed your wealth in terms of the amount of cows that you had, then the colonial system would say that, no, we are taxing you on each cow. That would force you to have to move into the cash system, right? And for you to have the cash system, then you would have to work in the mines in South Africa or something, right? So that's a dismantling of the systems that we had for the benefit of a colonial system. And I think that what I represent would be not just a call to the old, but revitalization of what we could be, right? But that doesn't mean now I'm going to try to introduce Matsema. No, I'm just going to try to introduce the scope of the systems or the knowledges that I have, because you can give something to me that I, do not know, So I'm actually about building ecosystems in order for us as the youth to move the culture forward. Because I've seen it, bro. I've been in environments where it's just like, nah, this is for everyone, but we are the cool kids, so we'll be just there. And I'm like, how does this make sense?
Yeah.
You just invited everyone, but then you're excluding me from the moment that I come into the door, right? Why are you pushing your coolness onto me? Be cool. I don't give a fuck really about your coolness. Just everyone is everyone, bro. Just see yourself in the other person. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned somehow the systems that we heard as Africans couple, they somehow when the missionaries came, they demonized them.
Yeah.
Like I would want to know, like, in what way did that happen?
Well, this is what happens, right? With the introduction of, let me give you a broader scope. The broader scope of colonization goes into the three C's. It's Christianization, it's colonization, and then it's civilization. So when someone like Leopold II wanted to take over what he called the Congo Free State, which is the highest form of irony that I've ever heard in my life, the Congo Free State, free quote unquote. He actually introduced missionaries first, right? The concept of Christianization would actually take you away from a concept that is known as God, right? So if you now are excluded from the concept that you know as God, then God is external from you, right? It will take back from the systems that we had where we understood as God is within us. Like, we don't have to pray to a God upstairs, like, uting. You understand? We'll just be in a field and pray, right? And then it would take that concept and take it into the white man has God. You don't have God. Why don't you have God? There must be something that's outside of you that the white man knows that they can instill in you. So everything that you want, you should go to the white man for, right? It changes the power dynamics, because once you can place your confidence in other people, you have taken away your sovereignty. You become a slave to other people's opinions, right? Because you've taken your confidence outside of yourself. You're no longer innately proud of what you do. You're like looking to see, okay, I've just done something. Where are the claps? Once you don't get them, then that messes up your psyche, right? There must be something wrong that you've done. So you will live your life forever trying to please someone else outside of you. You will take your resources and say, okay, is God pleased with all of my mineral resources? Is God pleased with my labor, even though it's for free? Is God pleased with, because your heaven is not here. That's what's being said. That's what is being told to you. Your heaven is, so you should work for your heaven, because it's not here. You should work and slave and everything. But then you should understand that God has sent a messenger in the form of a white-skinned person to actually now tell you what is right and what is wrong in the face of this other external being that is now called God. So the power has been taken out of you. Bro, they tell us all the time that African people did not have a writing system. That's a lie. You know, I have a tattoo right here. It's an Adinka symbol, right? Adinka is a form of writing in the Akan people of Ghana that relays messages, right? So what actually this is, these are two horns of a ram, and in the middle is where they find peace. So what it actually symbolizes is within war, you should find humility, right? Within strength, you should find humility. So we have writing systems. It's all been a lie. But once I've told you that I've incapacitated you and I've made you believe that you will forever be trying to work all of your life trying to please someone else because you don't have it innately in you to push forward or to make something happen for yourself. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, really, really interesting. So basically, it was somehow changing of the perspective of it's better when somebody comes up with something, not what you have. It's all that is. Because how mention working for, especially I don't even I would want to know this from you, Horena. When are your point of view when it comes to that God? I wanna because people define God in different ways, of course. But I would want to know from your side.
Listen, bro, there's nothing innately wrong with Christianity, right? My mother is a Christian. I believe in God, right? Yeah, like I was saying, I come from a Christian family. So I don't believe there's nothing that's innately wrong with Christianity. Just like I don't think there's something that's innately wrong with Buddhism or maybe Rastafarianism. You understand? But there are elements that people that know how to rule societies can actually use those loopholes in order for them to control the society, right? Because you have to understand that in the scope of African religions, we delve into more of African spirituality, mainly because it's not fully structured in a way that it can be understood that, these are Bana ke ba mamang, bana ke ba mamang. So the looseness actually entails that then you are free to praise and worship and believe in your own God as you see fit, right? So that doesn't actually form like barriers of rule. But then once I commit or once I introduce a power scale into it, like once I introduce, oh, okay, wena o tšerekeng batho so apara, wena o tšerekeng o moruti, wena o tšerekeng o mofora, wena you are this. And then now our scope is into who we see as better within us as a community, and we are further from the scope of the I and I, then it commits itself to, well, I'd hate to say a cultish behavior, but it commits itself to systems of control that are much more easier to manipulate. Because then who can actually challenge the priest, who at the time happens to be someone from Switzerland or someone from France or someone, because they are bringing God to us. Remember, that's the whole understanding of colonialization. They never said they were taking anything away from us, which they were. They just said, no, we're bringing you God. Well, we should ask ourselves this question. How come we have how many continents, but God is just in France? How come we have how many people spread out all over the world, but God just so happens to be in Jerusalem? Only.
God, I would say, in my opinion, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. God lives in us.
Yeah.
But it's a very complex thing. But I hear what you're saying on religion can be still even be used. But I feel like any type of information if somebody has a certain agenda, it's so much different from the initial purpose of that. Say by channel according to how they see fit, not of the truth. So it gets distorted. The truth gets distorted. How much about our agenda with whatever they want to do.
Yeah, here's my thing. My thing has never been, like I'm saying, it might seem that I'm against some sects or some people's ways of understanding. All I'm saying is there are systems of control that actually give us or make us stay in debt of one thing or another, right? If you can't pay that debt, then you'll always be trying to fulfill that debt. The first black country to actually gain sovereignty was Haiti. Right, from France. But then here's the thing that happened. After Haiti gained independence from France, the French came in and said, no, but you guys owe us. You guys owe us because we helped to develop you. Now you should understand the type of irony that is. You were enslaved, but you owe us because we introduced roads, we introduced schools, you didn't have these things. Mind you, these are formerly enslaved people. They had to pay what was called colonial debt for the next 100 years to come after gaining independence. What does that do to a domestic economy? You're always paying.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Have you read up on what's happening in Haiti right now? The systems of control will always be there because black people always feel like they always have one debt after another. And then those debts are then put into law. So the easiest thing for us to do in the international development world is to actually put crimes into law because that legitimizes crimes. Right? If something is put, it has a stamp on it, and then it says, no, but the commissioner in Cape Town says that you have to pay for every cow that you have, then the Mosotho man doesn't even think twice about it. It's law. What can I do? It's in the law. You understand? But we are enriching the other man and not ourselves just because we think it's in law. Bro, here is a controversial take. Cigarettes are legal. Nicotine does nothing but to actually just destroy the body. Cannabis is not. Do you understand the health benefits of THC alone? We have farms. We have cannabis farms in our country.
Yeah.
Lesotho, is said to produce the best medical cannabis in the world, right? But then it's illegal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone that's died of a cannabis overdose, right? This is an oil from THC that can that can heal some cancers, or it's said, or reduce the effect of some cancers. This is an oil that has been known. The fiber alone, hemp, produces the finest fabrics in the world, the most sustainable fabrics in the world. But you as a Mosotho cannot grow it, but I'm allowed to smoke 5 cigarettes. And by the time I'm 40, I would have reduced my lifespan.
But then what's our responsibility, specifically le Basotho kapo, specifically le Basotho when it comes to those type of things? Because if I know honestly what you're saying, it's so true. Or you know, it's even written there. Or this can kill you.
It's the law. Oh yeah. Or the nicotine. Yeah, it's written.
It can kill you. But then, I mean, it's allowed, but something along it's proven to have certain benefits, medical benefits, but then it gets to be demonized in some way. So responsibility are really the people, capo.
It's not only demonized, bro. The license of it is put to such a high scale that an ordinary Mosotho man cannot pay 500,000 in order for them to produce it. That means that you're taking away medicine from me, but then you're giving me freely the toxin, right? You're giving me freely the toxin, but the medicine you put it to such a high amount of taxation that I can even grow the medicine. You should know, but this is like basic Basotho like healing systems.
Then who
like bonkgono ba rona ba ne ba e ritela ka botee e fuwa bana ha bana bana le bo dikotsi tse itseng. I'm just giving you an example. You said what our responsibilities are. But I'm not going to go to parliament and fight for free cannibal cannabis. But this is what I do. This is what you do. These are our individual responsibilities. Right, to speak on such matters and actually, sometimes to put ourselves at risk.
It will inspire something. It's like it only takes a spark to get the fire going. So the little that we can do, somebody might take it along with an activist or something.
But
we work in different fields, so I feel like
because like people think that fighting. I had a Kenyan brother of mine who actually told me, "But you use very harsh words." And I'm like, "No, I actually use very kind words. I'm a kind person. Everything that I say is in a kindly manner. If I were to be harsh, then trust me, it wouldn't fly. You understand?" We think that going to war means then I have to take up a spear, I have to take up a gun, I have to then fight. No, bro. Some people's responsibilities are different. If you're fighting for a cause, then there has to be someone that comes up with the graphics. There has to be someone that is gifted in an oratory manner. There has to be people that are on the front lines that can actually then be the muscle. You understand? In fact, I think the muscle is the last thing to come about when you think about actually revolution as it stands, because you never hear about the muscle in any revolution. You never hear. It's always the Malcolm X. Malcolm X didn't fight physically. Martin Luther might have, but Martin Luther didn't fight back physically. It's the words, right? So that's why sometimes people say the power is in the pen, but we all have different positions. All I'm saying is you have to be confident in your position. You're doing something great. I mean, you're hosting us right now, and we're talking about learning in different fields and scopes and whatever.
I mean, into the country, Hagere, it's like, it's not built. We cannot say we built the country with only teachers. Then I mean, it will be very ignorant to think, for change to happen, it takes only this group of people.
For sure.
I mean, everybody. I feel like it's can contribute to anything.
For sure.
Yeah, can contribute to change, and we can build our way forward.
For sure.
Yeah. So like, speaking Ubuntu, like for example, when the tax be more money for people not to even afford it, like it's so insane because I don't know who actually benefits. Who benefits from these systems? They are not even questioned, I may say. They can even be modified because this has been going on for a long time. Certain things illegal just because who is benefiting and what's the end goal here?
We have to understand systems of governance that have been passed down to us. For the most part, we as the mass populace are sheep, right? We don't question. In fact, if anything, hey, mama, like really, like that guy is not even thinking about you. Most probably, you'll find yourself in the same position in the next 2 years, in the next 4 years, in the next 10 years, whatever the case might be. They work at a level that's above the people, but that still controls the people, right? If you had to take it from a colonial standpoint, then you had another third tier above that. So the other third tier above that would be, okay, our whole thing is let's control the resources and let's put, I don't want to use the word puppets because I'm walking a very thin line, but let's put our representatives, that's a PC term, let's put our representatives at the forefront, right? So the representatives would enrich themselves, but then grant all the resources to the colonial masters. So the colonial masters will always give them kickbacks, right? They'll always say, okay, fine, if this is where we are going, just give us the diamonds, and then you'll receive, let's say, 1% from every diamond that's sold. To the person that is still a representative of a colonized country, but is black, just like you and I. But they're a representative of colonial interests, not your interests. They are much richer than you as the puppets. But they'll always promise you something else. They'll always say, no, vote for me again. Then I'll give you, you have no idea how small that thing that they're saying will give you is in the broader scheme of things. That's if they even give you that thing that they're promising in the first place. Odds are that they won't.
Yeah.
You understand?
So I mean, some people, may say, it has been quite some time ago our country has gained its independence. Now, when we even talk about being colonized as a country, I mean, we have gained independence for quite some time. It has been years, I get it. But now, is that still in the picture, Kapo? What is happening? Is this still going on, Kapo?
I would love to move this conversation to a continental scope. You should understand that in the international development field, there are a lot of lies that are told that are masked within layers of these are the truths that we'll sell to the public. So there is something that's called flag independence, right? By law, quote unquote, a lot of African countries have gained independence, but France gains 500 billion every year in colonial taxes. You understand what I'm saying? 500 billion every year in colonial taxes. That's the type of taxation that says, no, you might have gained independence, but we've built your roads, we've built your power systems, we've built that, so you owe us. The irony lies in someone enslaving you and then telling you owe them for the chains that they put on you. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the irony of it. So when we talk about independence, then we have to talk about the type of systems that are at play. I mean, some of them, to be quite honest, I don't want to speak on them. It might be fair. It might be I don't want to get into a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it would be the policies that are put in place. at such a high level. Our reforms, bro. I was in D.C., Washington, in a building in D.C., Washington, and they were talking about the laws or the reforms that we will have in this country. So once someone actually puts themselves on a tier that says that no, I will be your counsel. I will lead you into this new era of independence. I will lead you into this. I will lead you into that. I will do this. But then how can you then gauge your sovereignty? How can you gauge whether you're free or you're not free, you know? Is it real freedom? Like if you say that you have your own house, right? You just left your parents' crib. You have your own house, but then every time that you buy a new piece of furniture, then you have to get a go-ahead from your mother. Is that your place? You know what I'm saying? Is that your place? You know? So I don't know, bro. I don't know how we move from this part to the next part. I don't know. All I just know is my part. If my part is speaking on some of these elements, I mean, yeah, but I'm uncomfortable about speaking on certain organizations.
Yeah.
For the mere fact that it might get me into trouble, and I'm tired of fighting.
Sure.
You know, and other things might be the case. But yeah, bro, like there are elements where yes, we do need these partnerships, right? Yes, we do need capacity. Yes, we do need because no country is an island. Quite literally, right? You do need these partnerships. You do need certain relations with certain countries, and you do need how they can capacitate you to move from this point to the next point, right? But then there's a thin line between that and whenever you have to run a policy by another country. And I'm speaking broadly when it comes to the African continental scope. Because as we are talking about, there is those francophone countries have now decided to move away from colonial systems, you know. You have Taouri, I think in Burkina Faso right now, that's taking away like power systems in terms of electricity away from French companies, right? They're taking control of some of their minerals. They're doing that. And I'm not saying, hey, let's go out and fight revolution. I'm just saying, let's think about these things more in depth. And do some of these things actually benefit us, or do they benefit other parties involved? Yeah.
The healthy question, I think, is to question them and basically assess whether, like you're saying, are they working for us or not?
Yeah, and also like I think the other thing that might be misunderstood about what my message is I'm not saying, okay, now let's take up arms and go into policy, or let's take up arms and do this. I mean, the people that might listen would choose to do that, and people are actually doing that in their own way. I'm just about youth ecosystems and building youth ecosystems and making sure that I empower you and we can move forward, because we do still have to have a sense of sovereignty within ourselves as the youth, but being based on proper foundations of knowledge of who we are, then we can move forward, right? That's my whole thing. Because bro, I don't even have the knowledge nor the time, no, in all honesty, the power to be seated and then the person next to me is a minister of something, and then yo, bro, do you know how much that takes away from you? I don't it's not even the thing that I do, you know, but I try to build ecosystems. I try to go to someone like a Big Billy and say, yo, call someone like from another industry that I'm seeing is on the come up, and then, yo, let's brainstorm about this and that, you know, because I'm trying to break down or break away from the theory that once someone is of a certain age, then they build this gap or they move away from the youth in as much as possible, because it still creates an environment where it's like, why are these people so far away from us? You know, why aren't they helping us? Why is it such a struggle if I want to get a license and yet I've seen you do it? Come on, man. What's the information from that, you know?
So some of the values that we used to have perhaps before we were, what's the term? Stripped away, stripped off from us, basically, before any of this colonization and everything. Back then, some of the values that we heard, made our nation to thrive. I mean, say, okay, how then do we bring them back? Because especially, I feel like it's better, for me, I still feel like it's better if the from younger generation in schools. I don't feel like some of these topics, and then you're like, oh, okay. Right now, some of these things, you can say we are school, and then you get to do so many things, but some of the things that matter to us to know even about who we are as a country individually and as a country as well. What's your position and how, where do you stand even in the international space? Some of these things, how do we then pass them to the young people, at least if people, maybe older people, they don't really have time? Or how can we make sure people coming after us?
When you start to understand that, you start to understand that when you move outside of your own country, and let's say you arrive at a Poland or a Switzerland or a Slovak country or maybe anywhere in Europe, and then now you'll get to understand, oh snap, remember, all your life you've never, in fact, some of us have tried to move away from that concept of Bosoto or what that actually entails. But then you come to a place which is so foreign that you'll want to then put yourself in a space where you can be so close to home as much as possible. That's why if you arrive at, like, let's say Berlin in Germany, right, and you see another Mosotho, you're going to greet them in Sesotho, and you're going to speak about home, going to speak about how different this is from home. So that's my whole thing. How then do we, because we can't say that our Bosotho-ness or Africanness is in the attire that we wear. I mean, or you understand? We can say it's in, some people might say it's in the traditions that they have, but I mean, from myself, from my own scope, I could every time I have a success. I mean, yes, it's important, but I can, so some of the traditions might be that now I'm not in tune with them. So my whole concept is let's come into terms with what we can be in tune with in our everyday lives, right? And I simplify it. One of the main themes that's in all of Africa is Ubuntu. In Lesotho we say it's that simple. It's that simple. Like, it's not then something that's hard to understand. It's not a scope that you are because I am, and because I'm going to do right by you because that's what I feel is the closest thing to Bosotho to me, right? I'm going to do right by you. I am going to represent you wherever I go because that's what I feel is the closest thing that means to be Bosotho to me. Because with me, I have to carry it in a form where I have to actually have it be concentrated, so that I don't have to feel that, oh snap, because I was in a conference that has everyone else from the rest of the world, and just because I don't have a Bosotho blanket, I did not represent Basotho. No, I'm going to represent Basotho in the way that I carry myself. I'm going to represent Basotho in the way that I greet the next person. I'm going to represent Basotho in the way that I talk to the next person. If that means then I have to value kindness, then yeah. But I feel like with us as the youth, I'm thinking if I'm still the youth, I might be a little bit older. But with the youth, I feel like the most important thing is then to merge those elements with the kind of energy that is there, you know, because there is an energy that is there with the youth, especially because I've been seeing a lot of vlogs, I've been seeing a lot of podcasts, I've been seeing a lot of movements, a lot of brands like a Wakim, like a Khoto Savvy, you know, and they are top tier. You know, and I believe with everything that we do, then we have to ask ourselves, okay, how does this then make it a Mosotho brand? You know?
So, right. So, I mean, do you think education like that, perhaps we can embed it for decolonial or something? Because I'm questioning it over now. Does it yeah. And then yes, as a parent you get to understand, oh, okay, I have a responsibility of teaching this kid these values I wanna. But then now most of the time we spend it in school, at school.
Yeah.
And then that's sometimes more longer we get to interact with other people as well. So I feel like maybe that not important as such, but like that can be one of the places still longer we somehow do something about that, because we believe that's the source of knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, my thing is, you know, while I speak on very broad issues, I sometimes don't delve into nationally what I can do, because I look at my time and I look at everything. So I look in terms of what I can do today. If it means putting out a blog, then I can do that today. If it means being on a podcast, then I can do that today. I mean, there is a certain element of we are living in a technological age where education has to surpass just you being in a classroom. It has to surpass, because bro, you are going into animation. You probably taught yourself much more about animation in the past 4 months than you were taught in a class for the past 2 years. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So then it's a matter of me just thinking about how I can pivot that and actually make sure that I'm happy. You know? Because I'm not gonna take national woes, bro. It's not gonna be me, bro. I have my own stuff to look after. I have my own life and everything, you know. So I can do what I can do in the space that I'm in. I think I had a section in one of the newspaper publications where I wrote on these things as well. So I can only do what I can only do with the resources that I have, up until maybe I have a much larger reach and a much larger scope. But I'm not gonna hit myself for not being able to have those things right now. You know? Yeah, I'm moving. As long as I'm moving, I'm okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very best way of going about it, because that way you're not limited. And I feel like like I said, basically it's just the spark, being on a podcast, doing your newsletter, inspire something in somebody, and then they catch it from there.
Just do, bro. Like, just do. Because at the end of the day, I think I'm going back to the youth. I think that the youth are so because the confidence is at an all-time high. But then the worst thing you could do or say to someone that's young right now is to say no. And I don't know why. I don't know why we've come to just be so dependent on other people's opinions, and how we've come to be, because then the other thing that we're going to do is look for every battle, look to it's like we are against rejection, or we are against some of the things that come with actually having certain platforms. You should understand, you have a platform right now. Sooner or later, someone is going to say F you.
Right.
Just because. You understand what I'm saying? Not because you're doing anything wrong. Just because. You understand? So I think, we have to delve into some of those emotional intelligence skills and whatever the case might be, because we have a lot of power, but there's a mismatch with the power and just how we move forward efficiently, you know. But the power is there. It always amazes me. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I respect what you do, and I feel like please continue doing what you do, because some of this information, especially now when I get to think about documentation, especially when you look documentation in your own, and I think there was this point longer you spoke a lot about before into people when they get to think about okay, Africa, we didn't document basically. It was a knowledge if it is on kamolomo fela, you know, through the I think the newsletter on you. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about rap. Moshoeshoe somehow was a rapper in some way. Yeah. So like that wisdom, documentationing can be documented in a poem or anything like that. So when I get to come across information no longer relates to me, I get to be so fascinated, because it's like for the I don't know, for the longest time the resources that we had Prof was here into this cards.
The cards.
So when I get to see them, I'm like, okay, we are headed in the right direction, because I feel like when this are documentary, then how are people who are coming after us going to know about them? Not to be honest, when I get to think about it, I'm like, okay, but now and then but then now it gets to be something why are we not doing it? Maybe we can blame the TV or anything like that, but I still feel like in those mediums we can evolve. For example, Prof, I was telling Prof, those cards that I feel like a very good initiative, because now as Basotho kapa ke tlameha hore ke tenetse so that ke bontshe hore hlane ke Mosotho, you know.
Imagine going to the grocery shop, putting it in.
Yeah, I mean it's good for the culture, yes, but we evolve as people. There's nothing against it, but we evolve as people, and as we evolve, how do we then navigate?
That's my whole thing, because people say that African stories were told in oratory fashion. First of all, what's wrong with orators? What's wrong with oracles? What's wrong with storytellers? You understand? What's wrong with this medium as a medium of transferring knowledge? Most people don't understand that the reason why I said it was to challenge people that this was battle rap by Moshoeshoe. Moshoeshoe was coming from a raid. And he had stripped a chief of all of their cattle. That's when Moshoeshoe said, Moshoeshoe wa kadi, back to Kadi Monaheng. Wa kadi li beola, wa beola Monaheng, ga Monaheng, dite. He was saying, I stripped you of everything. I'm the man. You understand? I was taking something that we have put in our minds as, oh, okay, Moshoeshoe, and therefore this was something that was innately chiefly or kingly, or no, he was blatantly stating that there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm saying it in a form of words that could now be interpreted as rap. So not only did I take away everything from you, but I said it. And then I'm changing my name as well. From Lepoko to Moshoeshoe to always signify that I'm that guy. You understand? So it's gusto, it's machismo, it's I'm that guy. It's the same elements that are in battle rap. You understand? So it's like, but like, no man, let's not I'm saying we're the youth, we have so much knowledge, but we box ourselves in, like, which is weird. Now it's like, just because it's in this format, then can be taken as knowledge.
Yeah.
Who says so? Right?
Yeah.
People can actually say what we've talked about and go and search for themselves if it's true or not. I might have not the broadest knowledge. I might have read up on some things, and some people might disprove that it's untrue or whatever the case might be. But then that's with all systems of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, finding different mediums that it doesn't have to be stereotypical.
No, bro.
We gotta be free in how we basically even express ourselves, really, Basotho and stuff. So now I would even want to know, as somebody who has traveled and being even outside of the continent, like how le Mosotho or le Mono, I not basically the more I interact with other races, of course, I get to even somehow I got to even appreciate mine as well. Whoa, like I even have that eager to learn about mine as well. Okay, these people are so proud of themselves, like. Ibile documentation ya bona kore, not even documentation, like everything ba khona hore ba modernize and it khona hore exist, their culture get to exist and live on to build up on top of the other. It's like that evolving. So for me, le nna ha ke interact le other races, ke bona ntho eno ya hore fela I really want to even express myself with the ideas that I actually have from seeing them, maybe in being inspired by them. When I basically abroad, what is it? How did you find yourself in that?
It's a position of fight or flight, because then you have to be so much in tune with your Basotho essence, because if you don't, then it's going to be lost. There's not a lot that's known, especially in America, about in Africa. So a professor would say, I have a project in Africa. I'm like, what do you mean you have a project in Africa? Where in Africa? You understand? Because it's important for you to actually tell us. If it's in Kenya, then I'm not neighbors with Kenya.
Yeah.
So I'm an African, but I'm from Southern Africa. Yeah, you actually you understand. So then you have to have or form a sense of pride and not take the flight route. You understand? I think there are about 2.4 million Jamaicans right now in Jamaica. They have a saying that we're little but we tallywall. Like, we're little in terms of number, but our pride will show you that we're Jamaican. From Jamaica, you have a Bob Marley, you have a Vibes Cartel, you can't tell them nothing. You see what I'm saying? So with that element is, how then do we actually take the same elements that these people have and actually innately put them in ourselves? Basotho, bro, we don't understand what we have. It's going to take other countries to understand what we have and then formulate it in like something like a Wakanda, and then you see, the waterfalls that were inspired by Malutsunyane, you see the attire, or you see Basotho blankets by Louis Vuitton, and then now you're going to think, oh wow, Basotho is special. Why does it take someone else to tell you that you're special? You understand? So that's my whole thing. Like, before you come to a place where you are now having to answer for your own country, know about your own country right now. You understand? In whatever way that you seem fit or you deem fit. Because I'm telling you, it's going to count.
Because not to be honest, like, for example, Lesotho, we don't have an ocean, we don't have a sea. For the most part, when body high school, couple primary schools, okay, riot or something like that, we get so happy when we have to go see the sea, ne? But we do have mountains, we do have beautiful scenes, but the fact that re tla mahlo sentse di le ho rona mo, the appreciation level, I feel like even though wa bona malutsunyane, it's something e leng hore fascinate people when they see it. They're like, whoa, especially people who have never seen it before, maybe into tourists, ne? But then when they come, they're like, wow, this is such a beautiful fall. But if only nigga, let's say in falls, the level of appreciation how much that is valuable sometimes demands me to maybe go to New York and see tall buildings and there are no trees. There's that, and every corner oh, I miss that fall. Or to see birds singing. It's the same thing, I think, it's in COVID-19 when renale lockdown. Breathing without a mask, it was, yeah, I mean, you don't care about it until you have to wear a mask and you cannot go out. Now, you cannot do that. So sometimes, I mean, it hurts. Sometimes you have to move to actually see what's beautiful in front of you. It was all the time. It has always been here.
I think, and this might be not such a great take. I think broadly in scope, we are closed in to because I'll tell you something. This wasn't the case when that African YouTuber, was it Mohlomiism, visited Lesotho. Then everyone was just like, oh wow, Lesotho is this beautiful.
Yeah.
But you live in Lesotho.
Yeah, including Lesotho themselves. Yeah, right.
A lot of, he got like the biggest boost coming from Lesotho.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
We are patriotic, but in the same scope, we sort of take exactly what you're saying, the things that we have for granted. Up until someone else goes like, oh wow, you have beautiful mountains, you have this. So I think it's a matter of just us reconfiguring our minds into this is actually beautiful, and that takes a sense of pride. That takes someone like the people over with Malutsi Braai Fest actually making it a continental event, actually saying, come and see the beauty. Now, let's all go to Malutsunyane. Let's all take some time and actually look at that waterfall. You know, by the way, we have our African brothers here. So one person will be from Namibia, the other person will be from Mozambique. And now we actually have something that we can all value. Because I think going back again to not us having our own sovereignty, it's funny how we do that. It's funny how we attach the level of confidence that we have with other people. So unless you, as a Mohlomiism, tell me that, look at these features, look at that, look at that, you understand? Then we're going like, oh wow, when I pass this place every day, I've never seen the beauty of it. Because picture this, after he came and then went, the number of Basotho people that were now taking pictures with the monuments that he was at, you know, the number of it grew exponentially. Because now we added value to those very features that we actually always had. You understand? So I'm like, yo, bro, there has to be a time where we actually have to instill ourselves a sense of confidence. Because if we don't, then we'll always be following someone else. And mind you, I'm not trying to say that I'm the perfect example for that. I'm not. I'm just saying these are ways of thinking that we can actually adapt to.
I mean, where does even that come from? Like, seeking that validation, external validation, when it's initially, it's like to see this is valuable. Where I want to find the root of that. Where does that even come from? I want to be told, this is beautiful, but Nakabona, I can't really say it.
I'll take it from my understanding because I think people's understanding will be different. And by all means, I'm not here as like the beacon of what's right and what's wrong. You understand me? In my field, international development, we think that white is right. So we'll think of what's happening in America to actually be the pinnacle of democracy. Is it really? If the last few months have taught you something, it would teach you like a different story entirely. You understand what I'm trying to say? It comes from the element, I think we've just been speaking about this, the 3 C's of colonization: Christianity, civilization, and then commerce. You understand? It comes to like, okay, what's without, that's something that's external to me would be something that's much more value to me than something that's inside of me. You understand? From that scope. But then again, in the broader scope of things, what does it matter? Like, okay, something has been done. It's like if someone hits you on the face right now with a brick, and then you're going to go, okay, who threw the brick? And then you see who threw the brick. The only thing that matters is what you do after that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't now think, okay, this brick flew at me at a trajectory of physics would say that because this brick was flying at a motion of, the brick has landed and it's hit your face. What do you do after that? So this is what we do. We talk, we use the channels that we have, we use the resources that we have. Because, bro, like I'm saying, it's a huge ass mountain. We can't be now thinking about the height of the mountain. If you're going to climb it, then you take one step and you just keep walking. Yeah, that's just it. You can't blame yourself now for like, you just walk. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for coming through and sharing the knowledge with me.
Most
definitely.
definitely.
With our audience as well. And I feel like, as I said, is the spark that
most
gets the fire going.
So
basically, a little inspiration, a little light that we can shine through from this topic. Still longer. Sometimes people are scared to talk about couple.
I'm scared to talk about these.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I am. But sometimes things have to be said. Somebody has to say something about it.
Yeah, bro, because brightest minds are going to be tested at one point or another. And then when you are tested, now you have to find yourself. But the question is, my thing is, let's find ourselves now before we are tested.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. Let's find ourselves now and let's be true to ourselves in every facet of our being right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming through, and please continue doing what you do. So, for people who are watching, where can they find you or anything like that?
The newsletter is called Afik Diaz newsletter. If you type it in, you'll find it. On LinkedIn, Leoma Monaheng.
All right.